Hello everybody. Thanks for joining me today. So, we want to talk today about Unity for film and the features, use cases, and the current climate of where Unity is for the film industry. And I love this little title here that I didn't make it up, but the real-time revolution is here. And I think it's pretty catchy and really great in some ways because people who've been making video games for a long time think, yeah, that's very obvious, real-time's great. Whereas people from different industries who are just catching on to this now are kind of understanding the possibilities for their production with real-time and the benefits it brings. So I just want to show you a few examples of real-time experiences currently made in Unity. And there should have been audio, but you know. So these experiences are all linear, but using Unity for the rendering, for the workflows, for the feature set that it currently has, that we're just getting started for in the film space. So yeah, like I'm sure many of you caught the keynote this morning. I'm Josh Naylor. I lead the evangelism team for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And you can feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or for the rest of the day. So it's my job to meet developers, historically, mainly game developers, visiting game studios, helping them with their titles. Where now, it's a lot more of people in the film industry, automotive, people who are like creating work for brands who want to get into the VR and AR space, and understanding how they can use games technology in their productions. So we've just won an Emmy for our involvement in Baymax production, which is 3 animation shorts called Baymax Dreams. So this was entirely made and rendered in Unity, along with some of the Disney team. And the reason why they decided to do this in Unity is because demand for broadcasting is high. Like there's so much competition out there now, especially if you look at some YouTube creators or other streaming platforms, and stuff like this type of animation is not just for kids anymore. If we look at the popularity of things like South Park or more recently like Rick and Morty or Bob's Burgers, like adults especially love watching cartoons as well. And then a lot of people who are from the traditional film sense are taking their IP and moving it across to VR and AR platforms. And Unity, I'm obviously going to say that because I work for Unity, but it's one of the best platforms for VR and AR production. So because of that, obviously the way media is consumed is changing. Like I said, on a lot of streaming platforms, even just watching on our phone, everything now has to be quick, it has to be agile, and the development of that cannot take a year or 2 or 3 or 4. It has to be super quick. That's why cartoons like South Park stay very current with the jokes in there are so new in the news that they're like a week or 2 old because they write the stuff, they animate it within that 2-week period. And movies, if we look at, say, Avatar, like at the time it still is an amazing piece. Every single frame in that movie took 90 hours to render. Over, 2.5 hours of runtime, 24 frames a second. Like the rendering power needed for this is insane. It's huge. And yes, it looks amazing, but when we look at real-time game engines, if you look at what Red Dead Redemption looks right now, when you watch that, it looks absolutely amazing. And again, it's all in real time. It's not a movie. So because the way that we consume is changing. The way that content is created has had to change as well. And this is why I want to guide you through why people are using Unity. And people have started to use it because of how popular it is a game engine. So if we look at just some of these titles here, amazing pieces, very different art styles, from cartoony to hyper-realistic, to like amazing effects and particles like Ori and the Blind Forest compared to the Valley of Gods and stuff like Escape from Tarkov. And that's why we've been disrupting the film space so much and getting people such as Neil Blomkamp, who did District 9, on board who want to experiment and R&D with technologies such as Unity. And then going off to places like Sundance or Venice Film Festival to show off to that community what is possible for making movies, for making VR and AR experiences. So when we say some of the biggest directors, we mean the biggest, like Steven Spielberg here for Ready Player One, for Jon Favreau for Jungle Book. And they're using Unity in very different ways. But most of the ways right now for these guys is previs, pre-visualization, to get the actors to be able to understand the space, to pre-visualize what the movie should look like. So when it goes off to the big production houses, like ILM, for example, they know what it should look like, rather than just storyboarding it out or having something that's more blocky and very static. You can bring that in to Unity to understand how the full film should look. So let's jump into some of these use cases. So first of all, Jon Favreau's Jungle Book. Basically, the kid here who plays Mowgli, he's like a 10, 12-year-old little kid, and he did all of his acting in a very blank blue or green room. So he had to kind of understand the space. So first of all, help the actors understand the space visually. So you can understand we're in a jungle, we're in a temple, we're in the fields of Africa. We can get a general feel of like a very blocked out view, so he can understand his space better. Secondly, we can then view, so this is just a blank room with some objects running around. This is then put into Unity to understand what his environment is, what animals are there. And again, it's not going to be the final cut, it's all this pre-visualization work. So let's have a look. So all of this is passed through into Unity, this full blue room. You can understand where he is and improves his acting ability, right? And what we can do is render out everything that's rendered in Unity to a movie file or a GIF or static shots. So there's Jon Favreau pretending to be the tiger. And again, what's better? Is it better to have 2D concept art, or the young kid be able to see this digital world in 3D, possibly in virtual reality, to get a better understanding of the space? And then finally, as we're going to see here, obviously filming him. But then when he starts stepping through, we're going to see like a very blocked out version of Bagheera, the huge leopard. So here he is here, and the full rest of the background. So they can take this initial cut and send it off to their production house, and they can get a better understanding of what the space should look like or where the animal should be. And it really helps with that final capture. So it means the director can on set change things around, move stuff within Unity, within this virtual world, and then get their concept across to the production houses afterwards. Here we go again. All these blocky shapes moving around. And he can change all of this in real time, or where people want to be, or textures, anything at all, like you would be able to do in a game production. Taking it one step further is Steven Spielberg with Ready Player One movie. And they worked with a company called Digital Monarch Media that you may have seen just 2 weeks ago at Unite-LA. We announced our acquisition of them. Very small team, but very experienced in the industry. And they make software built on Unity where a director can direct their entire movie in virtual reality. So Steven Spielberg could, first of all, understand how the scene is made up. He could stand there with a VR headset on, and there's a Unity developer in the corner, and he's saying, okay, I want all of these pods to change. I want to multiply these pods by 20. I want this platform to change. I want to be able to someone from move to there, to there, to there, rather than just a blank green screen room. Then the actors themselves, as before, can put on the headset and understand the space that they're acting in, instead of just a blank room. Finally, Spielberg himself can weld 50 different types of cameras using the handsets on the Vive to record different stops within the world. So he's going to stand in the middle of the room and say, okay, so I want a camera right in the middle. He puts a marker in, he pulls it back, he says to go from here to here, and then a dolly appears, and he goes, okay, the next shot, and he's laying on the floor. Steven Spielberg, who's like 76, laying on the floor with a Vive on, moving the camera across. So I want to pan across like this now, and he's saving every single marker. And in the end, they can render out a full digital movie in Unity using the timeline and the recorder function. And then they send it off to ILM, and he's got his full pre-cut. He's directed the entire thing in virtual reality, and now he can say, this is what I want. And then they make all of the high-end assets and put them together. So yeah, Digital Monarch Media have done the same for Blade Runner, the newest Blade Runner, not the old one. Obviously, that technology was not around in the 60s, 70s. And yeah, we've acquired them to be able to build this product more and go out to those directors of the future to build something similar. The next one, very much like Baymax Productions, is virtual production. How we build the entire movie, not just the previs in Unity. So this is a demo by some of our technical artists at Unity. Everything here is captured in Editor. So this is more proof of concepts, understanding the tools we currently have and what we need. So we can see it's very like Pixar-esque scene. So it's very high resolution. Like it does only run on super high-end machines, but that's fine. That's what the film industry runs on, right? Using what the current limitations are of those industries. But imagine, say, spending 30 hours rendering the scene in the traditional sense, and then not liking the color of our blouse or the color of our eyes, or changing some foliage in the background. With Unity, because this all runs in Editor, what we can do is just stop, go to our timeline cutscene, change how our camera should look, change the animations like of the foliage. We can adjust materials, lights, all in real time. Like so. So I want to change the brightness of the scene. I want to change per shot lighting that applies to her face via timeline. I want to change her hair color, or her eyes, or her cardigan color. We're not just creating this and then sending it off to a render farm for 30 hours. We're doing this, we're changing it, and then pressing play, and we can see everything that's changed instantly. You can see something similar for this. So this is our Adam demo, which was taken by Neil Blomkamp and his team at Oat Studio. I really hope it's going to load. And we can see how easy it is to iterate on these features. So here's the scene itself. And as a director, I want to change a few things. So I'm going to grab this particle system at the back here, the fire, and like, actually I want a shot to be a bit further back at the right. I want to change where this guard is behind. So again, we've stopped the timeline. We're going to grab the guard, move it across. So we can, again, direct our shot. And what we're doing is bringing in different particle effects, global lighting, all of these assets into the sequencer to direct our full shot. Or what if I'm not making a movie, but say an advertisement for a car? I ship in this silver Lexus, and I'm like, actually, I don't like the color. Imagine having to ship that off back to Lexus and grab another color when you could just change it in real time. Or I want to change the depth of field of my camera shots. So imagine having to change the lens, attaching cameras to a car, anything like that. All be done post-processing in real time. All then put into Timeline, our sequencing tool. What about changing where the camera position needs to be? Let's just grab this little graph and move the height. Imagine how long that would take to redo and redo and redo in the physical world. So Previz is now production and also post, all at the same time. You can do all of your post-processing at the same time as everything else. Which means that you no longer have 10 different departments doing your previs, then your asset creation, then your animation, then your lighting, then your post-processing, that you have to then go back. So say if the director got to the very final thing, that actually I don't like this, you'd have to go back and re-go through every single step again. With this, it's a constant iterative process where those people can all work on it at the same time. So now what are the tools that you actually can use in Unity right now to do all of this? I'm just going to go through them separately. So as I've mentioned a few times, this is Timeline, which is our sequencing tool. So this is a very linear tool for interacting, manipulating, and turning objects on and off. So we've got things like an attacker script here. So right now we're playing idle to crouch to idle to attack. At the same time, I want to then kick off some audio, which is a crawl sound, or an attack taunt, or a grunt as he jumps. I want to continuously be looking at the character, so I'm setting that to my camera. I want to play my master audio at the same time. I want to also change some lighting. So outpost light is always on until this point here. I've got a beam that I want to turn on, off, on, off, on. Having to code this previously would be a huge pain. So being able to do this in a linear way, very visually, is really great. Cinema Sheen is a set of procedural cameras, which was previously an asset store package made by our community, and we bought and hired the talent in so that they could remake it or make it a lot better than they ever could with all of Unity support behind them. And it hooks into Timeline really nicely. So this is a really visual tool, all in the editor at the right, in the inspector, setting different virtual cameras around the scene. And the benefit here is having multiple posts or multiple references to one camera. So I can set up 10 virtual cameras in this room and just pass that one camera between all of the points between those virtual cameras. So we can set up things like dolly tracks, we can set up follow targets, we can compose our shot in the game view scene. So let me just play that again. So yeah, first of all, we're putting our virtual cameras into Timeline. And then we're just mixing between them. So right now they're very static. It'll be like cut shots, cut shot, cut shot. I want to merge them together. So now they would blend between the two. I'm directing my scene here with my target point, blending between the cameras. And then now I have this dolly track system all along here, which my camera is following across. Again, if you want to do a dolly track system on the side of a cliff in real life, it's a massive pain, a lot of money. But now we can just do it visually and manipulate the graph and the dolly track very quickly. We didn't want to go to the next slide. For Previz work, tools like ProBuilder, which is a mesh editing tool. So previously you had to use just primitives in Unity. Now with ProBuilder, you can create all of these meshes in Unity rather than having to go out to your DCC package like Max or Maya or anything that you would use. You can do all of this now in Unity. And this is great, like I said, for pre-visualization, for prototyping in games, to just blocking out your world to get a very fast and iterative design. And then send it off to your artists afterwards that can use our FBX export tool to take it into those more advanced packages, edit, manipulate, make it a lot more high poly or texture it, and then bring it back into Unity using our Roundtripping tool. Using PolyBrush, which is made by the ProBuilder team. So this is a sculpting tool for terrain. So it can do stuff like blending geometry, texture blending, and painting. Even like hand-lit painting, so painting into the scene itself rather than using proper lighting, or even just mesh sculpting as well. So again, this fast, iterative workflow. When we get to the actual final render, and we're trying to get those super high fidelity graphics, we've got the HDRP, high definition render pipeline. Now the render pipeline here is one of our templates that we created. So we created lightweight render pipeline, which is for mobile games, mobile rendering. High definition is for high-end PC and consoles. So this is using much more advanced effects. On this, we built things like ShaderGraph, which is a node-based shader material editor. So you can see here, there's no code to create these kind of effects and shaders. So I'm passing in just a texture, I'm passing in like a Fresnel effect, and multiplying the height map. So all of this now gives this like kind of like crusty, volcanic material. Mechanim has been around for a long time, the Unity retargeting animation system. This means that I can take this very generic looking humanoid that has maybe 100 different animations on and retarget all of those animations to these different models. So this is like a demon-esque, really tall, but still a humanoid character, compared to this really animation, big-headed humanoid character here. And it means that I can author one animation and share it among many. Or it means that if I'm on a budget, I can grab pre-made libraries of animations via the Asset Store or Mixamo or anything like this, and again, retarget onto any type of humanoid character, which saves, again, a lot of money and time. And if you're trying to get out new animations for YouTube or for kids shows or anything that needs a quick turnaround time, being able to do this type of retargeting is really key, right? Rather than going to a production studio and keyframing every single one of your animations. We showed this off at Unite Europe this year. So this is facial mocap capture. And this is just using an iPhone 10, just a generic consumer device using AR kits. So Apple's AR framework. And this is grabbing Natalie, who is here, one of my colleagues. It's grabbing her face and applying it to the blend shapes of this little girl model. So anything that she does captures, I think, 6 or 7 different blend shapes, her nose and her eyes, forehead, mouth, applies the same. And using the Unity recorder, we could then save this out to be an animation clip and then put that into our project. So not just obviously doing the real-time copying, but actually saving it out to an animation that we can then use. Editor XR is a preview that we've had out for some time, and this is to actually weld the Unity editor in VR. So it means that you can have your hierarchy or your game view or your inspector all in virtual reality. So this has been in preview for a while. You can grab it on this link here, GitHub, Unity Technologies Editor XR. And it just gives you a really great sense of scale, especially when you're making these type of projects, especially for like a film or for a very close type of game. So you can see, it should be a video, but Timony here, she's got a scene from Firewatch, Unity-made game, and she's placing objects all around to kind of get a feel and understanding of what this space would look like. Our labs team in Paris, who make HDRP, our graphics team, been working on photogrammetry. So this is a real life scene, a real life area in the world. I don't know where in the world it is, but it is in the world. And what they did is took thousands and thousands of pictures of this place and then delit using our DLighting tool to create this photogrammetry effect. So this is what it looked like in Adam. We can see here the difference between the two. There's not a stark difference. Let me just guide you how that actually works. So they went on site. They took thousands and thousands of pictures. They remodeled these areas and then tried to apply these textures that they took the pictures of onto these models. It looks great, but when you change the lighting or when you change anything that would, say like the intensity of the light color, then we can see the solid color here, which is just a solid color, and we can also see here what the actual texture looked like that we just captured from an image. When we rotate the directional light, we can see that all of the lighting information is still there because it still was part of a shadow when we took the picture. The DLighting tool strips all of the natural lighting from those photos so that we can apply our own digital lighting to the scene. So here we are, experimental DLighting tool. I don't know how it works. It's like black magic. But you just literally put the textures in and it works. It's amazing. So yeah, we're putting our parameters in. We'll then see baked textures. So these are our original textures. We've got our normal map, occlusion map. Pull that in. And we can see on the left is the captured texture, and on the right is the delit texture. So removing all of that natural lighting that you would get in a photograph. Now when we apply it back onto that model, we can light that object as we wish digitally, changing the intensity, the color, the direction of the light, and it will act as though it is more of a digital image, but still being kind of having that same texturing from the initial image. So there we go, we can see the difference. That's the original, this is delit. And then when we put it into that scene, we could see the difference. Pretty cool, right? And then this is another thing that the HDRP team have been working on for a long time, but it was kind of like a standalone demo, is volumetric lighting. So that's it now in HDRP. And I just think it adds so much more depth to a shot, like you can see here. But yeah, that's all in HDRP right now. The VFX Editor that I showed off this morning. Again, this is we've looked at a lot of cross industries, especially the movie industry, and to understand how their VFX systems work. Looking at tools such as Houdini, and again, bringing in that kind of workflow into Unity with this node-based editor graph. I've got a session at 3:30 today if you want to learn more about that. I've just been pimping that out the entire day. And as I said before, all of your post-processing can be done in real time in Unity. So everything such as like ambient occlusion, bloom, tone mapping, so depending if you're doing HDR on high end or LDR on low end mobile, things like depth of field or grain, vignetting, even motion blur can be done in real time, set up in Unity. And what's great as well, it's really extendable with its own API, so you can create your own custom post effects if you've got like a graphics programmer, such as like custom lens distortion or your own custom motion blur, depending on what you're doing. As I mentioned before, today or yesterday we announced partnership with Autodesk, and this is our round-tripping DCC tool. This means that we can create, say, a ProBuilder scene in Unity or an asset in Unity, and then we then export it out into Maya, where we can edit it. And as we edit in real time, those changes will be changed in Unity. So I've got my PBR Stingray shader here, and then that'll then export into Unity. So now when we go back, our block will change to that ship with all of our PBR materials. But now if I want to change some certain vertices, and I want to change that in real time, so let's turn it into a game object. So I'm adding in rigid body, I'm adding collider, I'm going back to Unity, and then we can see that it has all of those details on still. I'm now going to change some vertices, change that so it's got like bigger wings and more further back. Press export. Again, that live link to Unity, and it changes straight away in the editor. This is only going to get better with our new nested prefab workflow and prefab variants. So yeah, look out for more updates on that. This is that video is actually old now because of our announcement yesterday. So yeah, right now what can you do? The plugin, FBX export from Unity, and then taking it back to Maya. Mesh materials, Stingray shaders, the PBR shaders. Camera and animations, lights. Right now it's Maya and Max, but we're looking at other DCC tools in the future. And then finally, once you've done and used all of these tools and created your masterpiece, how are you actually going to get it out to be a single shot, or how are you going to get it out to be a full movie render? And that's using the Unity Recorder. So this is on the asset store right now, completely for free, and it will be a package soon. And you can select and put it into timeline to record single shots. You can render out full MP4s at different resolutions. And this then renders the Unity project at a lot slower frame rate. So for example, if I had a video game and I wanted to render out some cutscenes for it, and I say I wanted 4K video to be rendered out, it would probably render out at, like, say, 10 FPS, but then you would get a full final cut at full 4K, 60 frames a second. Just another example of some animation productions. I like going a lot of this because I love Baymax. So again, our team internally worked with Disney to create this and did it all in real time. Should be audio, so we'll skip that. Mr. Carton was probably one of our very first movies, animations to be made in Unity. So this is an ongoing series on YouTube right now. So this is why they need such a quick turnaround time. So it's kind of like Mr. Bean, but cardboard. And it reminds me of SpongeBob quite a lot as well, if you like SpongeBob. Again, everything is done in Unity with these like cardboard effects. So they've scanned all of their models in to make it look like this cardboard effect. And because we've got our PBR materials in Unity, we can make it look exactly like cardboard. And here's what it looks like. So they're blocking out their scene, they're getting kind of an understanding of what it should look like. Then they're texturing, then they're adding all the PBR materials in, and then they had their own type of timeline thing before we had timeline, but it's very similar. So we got a lot of feedback from this team of what the timeline sequencer should look like. Again, another example of some quick turnaround cartoons. So this is, I believe, an Indian production. Again, a YouTube animation for kids, where they have very tight deadlines, turnaround times, but because they have all of these assets, they can render in real time, record in real time, and edit very, very quickly. Using a lot of like pre-made animations, or just a big animation team to do a lot of these keyframes and blend between them in Unity. It will not let me skip a slide in. And then, like I mentioned before, so a lot of people are taking their existing IPs and taking them to new platforms. So Coco came out last year, really awesome movie. Disney then wanted to extend the IP, bring it into virtual reality. So they brought out Coco VR, all made with Unity. They already had the existing assets, so they brought that into mobile VR. So with all of these tools and the power of real-time rendering, there's lots of versatility and the power of things like HDRP, which will be coming out properly next year. And because Unity has had this amazing experience in creating all of these different unique styles, it means that we can render all different types of stuff, whether it's really real-time, high-fidelity stuff, such as Book of the Dead, such as super high-end car simulations, more Disney, Pixar-esque stuff, or using physically based shaders to make things look like cardboard or Play-Doh or things like this. So as the very last video shows this real-time auto demo. So again, another ways that we can progress this technology is in, such as automotive. And again, we can change the color of the car instantly, we can change the lighting, the post effects, we can change where it is in the world by a skybox, anything on. And due to our great platforms, we can get all of this onto all the different VR and AR platforms. We've been attending all of these conferences around the world to show off to the next generation of filmmakers or to people who are already in the industry to see, hey, this is Unity, this is real-time, this is using video games technology for film. With that, thank you so much for your time today.